Hey, you guys. We've been out for a little bit, but we are back now. Fandom is magic. So we're going to this episode, we're going to be talking about the DC Studios announcement that happened this week with James Gunn. I am being joined by my co-host, Speed Force Spector. Speed Force, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. So we're going to go through all of the announcements. We're going to go through all the films, the TV shows. We're going to go through the stuff that's because they announced that there would be a DC Elseworlds banner with DC Studios. And then we'll go through the DCU, the old school DCU, and then I want to go through the DCU chapter 1 titled Gods and Monsters. But before we go through these movies, I was just wondering what was your take on this announcement from James Gunn?
So I'm gonna be real. I was worried because I didn't want everything to go away.
Okay.
Um, so I was pretty ready for everything to be gone. Like by time like Monday rolled around, I was like, wow, it's the end. And so, I was kind of gearing up for everything to just poof gone. James reboots everything, the end. But he didn't.
Right on.
And I'll pause my thoughts on that for a little bit later. But and I'll still say it. I'm still a bit hesitant, but cautiously optimistic.
And before this, were you a James Gunn fan?
I liked Guardians, and I never played the game, but I did like Lollipop Chainsaw, the
Okay.
game. Uh, but I will admit, um, because previously we had Josh Whedon come into the DCEU, that didn't work out so great,
Right.
and we don't really want DC to be like MCU at all. So, and at the
Right on.
same time, I will say this. I'm not sure about Gun 110% just because Gunn is like, he has a wheelhouse of how he writes things. So, because like we'll talk about it later, but like he's going to write a Superman movie. That's going to be a huge challenge for him, both as an audience member, knowing how he writes, both with him as a director, too.
Right on. I have to say, I was not when it came to the presentation, I was a little underwhelmed in terms of just the presentation in itself. I felt like it was very like he was doing it for a college class and presenting his final project to the class, which I was like, okay, well, this was, I guess, nice. Um, I do. I kind of am a little bit opposite of you. I kind of wanted a hard reboot in terms of I just wanted to get rid of everything and start fresh and new. A blank canvas, if you will. But I am a huge fan of James Gunn, so I do trust in his leadership, and I think that he can create something that I might like. So I am going to sit back and see what it is that he creates, and hopefully it's good.
Right.
Because there are some projects on here that I feel like maybe a little bit of a misstep, which I want to talk about, but and get your perspective on it. So first I wanted to talk to you about the what they're calling the DC Elseworlds banner of DC Studios. And there are two movies under this banner, which are Batman Part 2 by Matt Reeves, and then Todd Phillips' Joker 2, which is like I think it's called Defeu or something like that. First let's start off with Batman. How do you feel about first off them keeping this Elseworlds banner? And how do you feel about Batman underneath that banner?
So, one, um, I'm glad that they aren't really like, I'm glad that they could have two things. They could have a fun cinematic universe, but if a random director is like, hey, so I want to make a Wally West Flash movie where like he's the Flash, can I do that? Yes, okay, great, cool, awesome. They don't have to worry about like the MCU kind of going, so here's Werewolf by Midnight on Disney Plus. There you go, off to the side. No one's gonna really notice. Maybe like a niche group of people. So there you go. Not part of our universe at all. So it's one of those things where they're proud to say that, hey, we're gonna make like a random Batman movie that's not tied to our universe. Enjoy, and still market it as like, the next big DC thing. So yeah, I think that's cool.
And then how do you feel about Matt Reeves' Batman? Did you like the Batman?
I did. I absolutely loved it. It was definitely a breath of fresh air. Quite enjoyed it.
And then how do you feel about part two? Are you looking forward to it? Do
I
you
mean, there's not really a lot of news, so can't like all I can say is I liked one, so yay two. That's about
who
it.
who would you like to see him be the main villain of part two?
Maybe Mr. Freeze, maybe.
Okay, yeah. I have to say, I don't know how I feel about the Elseworlds thing. I was trying to explain it, the Elseworlds, to my wife, and she got it, but she also thought it was a little weird. She's a normie. Don't tell her I said that. She hates when I call her that. But she really doesn't know. She doesn't read comic books, and
I'll
she's not.
say this, like I feel like that's like kind of perfect for her
Oh, okay.
because like if like let's just say hypothetically the cinematic universe idea isn't for you and we don't know how that's going to look at all except for maybe the Flash to an extent, but I feel like this is perfect for a normal person who just goes, I don't really want to deal with the baggage of MCU level continuity. I just want normal comic book movies like back in the day where I could just pop on Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 without any problems of other previous continuity except for the continuity that have been established in like 1 and 2. So I think that's perfect for a casual audience more than anything else. Plus it gives a person the option if they don't want to focus on a big universe continuity based thing.
Right on. That's an excellent point. I do have to say though, I personally did not like the Batman. So I'm not looking forward to the Batman part two. I'll watch it though, because I'll watch anything DC, but I personally didn't care for it. But in saying that, if you don't mind, I'd like to move over to Joker 2. Did you like Joker 1?
Okay, so I'm gonna say a big hot take. I'm
Go.
more of a Harley fan than anything else. The only time I enjoy Joker as a character is in family-friendly media, unless you can change my mind. So that's always a plus for me.
Right on.
So I just did not care to watch the first film, and I'm
Okay.
just gonna be honest, even though we do have Gaga as Harley, even though that sounds interesting, I could easily just watch clips on YouTube and call it a day. So I'm really not
Really?
interested.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that's totally cool. I get it. I did enjoy the Joker very much. I thought it was an interesting take on the character. It's not my Joker, but I did enjoy it. And I'm also interested in seeing Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. I also love Harley Quinn. Can I just say a side note though? With all these Harley Quinns coming out, I have a daughter, she's 6, and she likes Harley Quinn. We watched the Batman animated series, she likes it. I'll read her some comic books and everything, and she really likes Harley Quinn. But there's not a modern Harley Quinn that I can show her because it's way too adult. So I like you said, I wish they would do some more family friendly content so I could show that to her and not feel like yeah, they've got some sex jokes in here. I don't want her to.
In terms of right now, all you have is last generation's DC superhero girls
Yeah,
and
which
and Bat Wheels.
for sure, which we just watched that DC Titans Go and DC Superhero Girls Madness of Multiverse of no, what is it? What Mayhem in the Multiverse. Um that was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
It
I
wasn't
like
my
that.
yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was fun. Yeah, okay. All right. So now that we got those out, the Elseworlds out of the way, let's talk about the DCEU. So the first thing we got coming up is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Are you excited about this movie?
I am, just
Gotcha.
because I was a Shazam fan before the first film came out. I enjoyed the first movie. Great holiday movie, so excited for the second one.
Right on. So there, and I want to talk about the cameos and stuff that are in all of these movies because apparently there were cameos in these movies and they've apparently taken them out. Do you feel, oh, out of all the movies that are these four movies that we're going to talk about, do you feel that these movies are something that people need to go and watch, or do you think that people can skip them because they're not really, because I mean I don't think that Levi is continuing in the this new DC universe, and the judge is out on the Flash, and or Momoa is Aquaman, and Ezra Miller is the Flash as of yet, and Blue Beetle, because I'm pretty sure if their movies make money they'll keep him in there.
James did say that if Levi, Ezra, Jason's already in as is, and Gal, if they want to return, they can return.
Yeah,
So
I just go
there
ahead.
is that option. In reply to these movies being important to watch, James did say yes, especially The Flash. So,
Yes.
and
And
from what I've heard about the post credit in Shazam, it does lead into other things connecting to the new universe. So there is that continuity going forward already established in most movies.
right on. um what Okay, yeah. So the Flash too. I'm also looking forward to the Flash. I really liked the first one. And I think the second one, I think it looks pretty good. I
Did you
know
met you met Shazam?
I did mean Shazam. Okay, so let's talk about the Flash. So now this is supposed to be the great DC reset. Apparently, this because Ezra Miller is gonna stay on as the Flash, because apparently this movie is apparently really good. There is, from what I've been seeing online, it's testing in the high 80s. I saw an 86 at one point in time. And movies like this.
I think it from what I've heard it moved up to the 90s.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, then see, that's even great because movies these days, they don't test that high anymore. Black Adam only tested in the 60s. And I can't remember what else movie that they mentioned that also tested in the 60s at the same time. So movies don't test this high anymore. So it must be really good if people are giving it this high of praise. And James Gunn said that he saw it and he liked it. So this is supposed to be the great DC reset. Now let me ask you this. Are you excited about this movie?
Okay, so this is where I held off on my question on the whole reboot or kind of not reboot situation. And I think it was a smart idea not to reboot because, well, reboot ish, I'm going to use that term. Because for me, I feel like I wasted my time watching Man of Steel up until this point.
Hmm.
Like, it's been a messy ride only because of WB. But at the same time, I bought movies and a lot of merchandise and things like that. So WB, in a sense, could have wasted my money as a fan. On top of
Um,
that, you have DVD sales. They reissue those films a lot, especially like for $5 and things like that. Most recently, they've released a new Shazam DVD with a new box case and case entirely to promote Shazam 2. That's a lot of money they're wasting to throw away and say, oh, you could ignore those movies. So for them to pull like an X-Men Days of Futures Past, but changing the timeline and actors and things like that works. At the same time, Barry's the one character who remembers that past universe.
mm,
So it's not like we're saying goodbye completely, but kinda sorta.
right on. Um, okay. And I want to when I get done through with all these, I want to ask you about the cameos that are supposed to be in all of these films. I'm trying to think of what Blue Beetle's cameo is off the top of my head. Okay, so I am looking forward to the Flash personally. I mean, I know there's been a lot of stuff, Ezra Miller embroiled in controversy, but I have to just say I
In
personally
terms of Ezra, in terms of from what I've seen, a lot of it, yes, he did do, but everything else, it boils down to like weird people trying to throw Ezra under the bus because he went to a court, or they went to a court hearing recently, and like all the crazy madness you hear on the internet, none of that came up.
Mm. Yeah, I will. Out of
Plus, at the
everything,
same plus at the same time, like Gunn wouldn't say, "Oh, we're keeping the Flash movie, and Barry's going to be hugely important. If Ezra wants to stay, Ezra can stay." So, like they wouldn't have done that.
right on. I have to say, like, I'm excited for this movie, and I understand that, a lot of stuff happened with Ezra Miller, but at the same time, I don't care how many babies he let suck on bullets. I'm gonna go see that movie. I don't care. I literally like what happens in the real world does not affect my movie going experience. Um, and I am also excited about this. My only, which I want to talk about it in a little bit, but my only problem is the writer. Okay, so now let's real quick jump over to Blue Beetle. Now I have to just say right now, before I'm sorry, I don't mean to not let you get to speak first, but I have been reading Blue Beetle comic books because I was like, you know what? Before this whole reset thing happened, I was like, I'm gonna read the comic books that these characters are based off. So I bought Black Adam, Shazam, and I bought Blue Beetle. And Blue Beetle, the comic books, they're not my favorite comic books ever, but they're not bad. They're actually really fun. I think the character is a really fun. I keep saying fun, but he's a really fun character, and I think that this will be if they keep to the comic books. I think the I'm trying to think of the right word. But if they just keep to that same feel, I think that this movie will be a movie that I could take my kids to and not, be worried that something would happen that I'd have to explain later on.
I mean, it is a. I mean, well, I don't know what age they're going to make Jaime, so
Mm.
depending on that, but I see it being a PG-13. I don't really see them making this an R-rated film.
Right on. And I don't even think that the character is really like somebody that's like controversial. But is this a movie that you're excited for or interested in? I know we haven't gotten anything besides some set photos and the title and everything, but is this a movie that you're excited for?
Uh, I can't say excited, more so interested. Because I do like the character. I haven't read a Blue Beetle comic, but I've watched them in like Batman Brave and the Bold and
Oh, right
like
on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Young Justice and things like that. So
Yeah.
I have history with the character, and I do enjoy the character. So I'm more so interested than anything else. Simply because there's just not a lot of information, so it's kind of hard to judge. But interested is the best word I could use.
Yeah, no, and you brought up Young Justice. Before I had read these comic books, that's the only thing I knew about Blue Beetle was, I mean, I had some Teen Titans comic books and he was in there, but he was just a bigger piece or a piece to the bigger picture and everything and really didn't stand out. But the only thing I knew was Young Justice, and I did like him in Young Justice. But the comic book it's different. It's much more, I don't want to say kiddish, but it's much more fun in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the last one, Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom. Is this something that you are excited for slash looking forward to?
I like the first one, and I'm glad it's more Atlantean focused. Um, but that's really all I have to say about it, simply because there's no plot or anything. And I've heard it's tested good, so maybe I'll like it. I don't know.
Right on. My only concern for this movie, because I loved Aquaman. Aquaman is my favorite character in the DC universe. So I've loved Aquaman since I was like a little kid. So I just love this character. My only concern is just they had to do a lot of heavy reshoots. And now that doesn't mean it's going to be bad, because if you look at Star Wars Rogue One, they did a lot of heavy reshoots on that movie, and I think that movie is fantastic. So
From what I've heard, it was more so a cameo issue than an
yes.
actual in story issue. They did have to cut cameo story stuff, but other than that, everything seems pretty a-okay for the movie to work on its own without the cameos.
Right on. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that's the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was the cameo. So Blue Beetle, I haven't heard anything about cameos in that one, but from what I've been seeing, okay, so Wonder Woman is supposed to make a cameo in Shazam. Now that
Well,
hasn't
there was
been
already it has already leaked through the Japanese trailer or TV spot. Like we saw her bracelet thingy. So
right. But so I don't think that they've taken out the cameo from Shazam. But I did see, well, I've heard, see some scoopers online. A couple of them say that they have taken out the cameos in the Flash. So they've taken out the cameos of Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, Ben Affleck's, and that they're no longer
well,
bringing.
they didn't take out Ben in the beginning though,
Right.
and they didn't take out Wonder Woman in the beginning either because of a Funko Pop leak.
Right. What I meant was they're all supposed to be at the end of the
And yeah,
movie, and that's what I meant. Like not the beginning part because Batman is in the first 5 minutes of it, and so is Wonder Woman. And then Ben Affleck did film a cameo for Aquaman, and from what I understand, that is also taken out because that was filmed for the end of Aquaman, and that has also been taken out.
but that also did have Michael Keaton in it originally,
Yes.
and not scoopers, but test screeners were confused about it,
Right.
and they didn't watch The Flash, so they had no idea about that, and then they brought Ben in, which was kind of interesting because like that's a lot of money they just wasted. So
Right on. Okay, so we went through all the old stuff. Now let's get to this new stuff because I'm quite interested in some of this stuff. Some of it I want to get your take on it because I feel like some of it is a misstep. So I want to go in the order. I think I have the correct order of how he presented it, but I'm just going to go with the order that I have here on my screen. And if you want to correct me or whatnot, you just let me know. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is Creature Commandos. Now, I want to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Creature Commandos. I have not seen anything about that. I haven't read any comic books. I haven't seen any, animated stuff or anything. But what did you take from this Creature Commando show that is going to be coming out?
okay, so I have a lot to say about it, and it's
Go
not
ahead.
even a lot. So just like you have no idea who these characters are. At the same time, it's animated, and since they want a lot of brand synergy, they really got to pick actors who can both voice act for one and can also transition to live action as well. But they're only really being casted for the live action aspect. So hopefully they're good voice actors that whoever they pick for the casting is pretty good. After that, I don't have anything else to say because I don't know the characters at all. But I'll say this though. Next week, the Legion of Superheroes movie drops part of the Tomorrowverse DC straight to DVD animated movies, and I have no idea if those are just going to be completely gone because of Gunn wanting brand synergy with the actors and everything in animated roles and video games and other things. So they're really going to have to work that aspect out of the brand because I got to be honest, I don't really want to see like original like animated movies to be gone for the sake of being connected to a universe.
Right on. I get what you're saying there. They already have two other movies coming out that are in the pipeline, which are Batman the Doom that came to Gotham and then that War World. I don't think they would just get rid of them, but I think what you're saying is just in the future.
Yeah.
Um and I couldn't agree more. I think that the animated movies are fantastic for the most part. And I think if they ended that just completely, I think that would be a bad decision. Um, but in terms of this Creature Commando show, though, I do want to say though, I do think I know that they got Weasel in there from the Suicide Squad, and I understand that James Gunn wants to keep his brother employed, but I don't really care for that character
I
at
don't
all.
think it's
But
the matter of his brother being employed. They did say that they're gonna bring both Suicide Squad and that team together. So I think that they're just kind of mixing and matching whoever gets to be put on that team as is, really.
yeah. I do like that it's animated. I personally like animation. I think it's really fun, and I think these characters are they're a little kooky. You know, we got like a vampire in there and like a siren and stuff. So I'm all like, okay, that's fun. And then I also really liked that James Gunn had written all. I think they said it was 6 episodes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I also did. I like that James Gunn is writing. I personally enjoy James Gunn's writing, so I think that. That is a plus for someone like me. If you don't have anything else to say, I'd like to move on to the
We
next.
can move on, yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So next one is Waller. Now, this is a spin-off of the Peacemaker show. And from what I was understanding from what James Gunn was saying, that this is going to be in between Peacemaker season 1 and season 2. Which I don't know if they're going to do a season 2 anytime soon. But first off, let me get your take. Did you see Peacemaker?
I did not tune in because I no longer have HBO Max, so
Understandable.
no
How do you
comment really.
right on? And then how do you feel about them spinning off and doing an Amanda Waller show? And what do you think what do you think they're going to be doing with that?
It's certainly random.
Mm,
Like that's all I have to say in terms of that. In terms of plot wise, I think they're gonna try to connect the movies and Peacemaker the best way they can, and I feel like Amanda Waller is the best character to do that because, like, if there's some type of weird multiverse timeline shenanigans, I'm pretty sure she would catch on to that and try to make sense of it and bring like the Peacemaker team and whoever she has to figure out the situation.
right on. Um, I have to say, I think this personally, I did see Peacemaker and I loved it. I thought it was great. It was funny. I like the story, the acting, all that fun stuff. Plus, I love Viola Davis. I think she's great. And
She's
so
killed the role as Amanda Waller since 2016, so
I
her
agree.
staying around is just kind of it's a good decision.
Right, I agree. And I think that what they are going to do is the trial of Amanda Waller. A spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Peacemaker, not too big of a spoiler, but Amanda Waller, she gets outed as them having Task Force X. Um, kind of well, they really didn't do that in the Suicide Squad movie, but in the end of the show, it gets revealed that there's a Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, and so Amanda Waller's like, ah, crap. So I think maybe that they're gonna do the trial of Amanda Waller, which will be fun. And I think it's a good choice. Like I said, I enjoy it. I enjoyed um the Peacemaker, so I think that this will be a good spinoff. I can't remember her name. Crystal Henry. She is going to be running this show. And if anybody remembers, she did Watchmen on HBO, which nobody really turned into, watched.
I did not tune in for that at all.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people didn't tune in for it. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite, but it was all right. And then the joining the show will also be Jeremy Carver, and he is the creator of Doom Patrol, the TV show, which is sadly getting canceled. Um I'm not quite sure how much he'll bring to this show from Doom Patrol. I think he also worked on Supernatural, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'm excited for this show. I think it's going to be good. Okay, now I want to talk about Superman Legacy. Now, this is going to be a film, and this will be the true beginning of the DCU. And they have I think he said it was penciled in for July 11th, 2025, which, oof, that's a long ways away for your first official movie of the DCU.
that
Um,
is, but making it a summer movie is a smart decision.
that is a very smart decision. I'm curious. I thought I was wondering why they made it July 11th and not the July 4th weekend. But then I realized that's Disney's weekend. I can't remember what movie they were dropping that weekend. I'll have to look it up later. But yeah, they're dropping a movie on the July 4th. So I was like, maybe that's why they didn't take July 4th. What are your thoughts on this movie?
So casting a 25-year-old is an interesting choice, or someone super young. I think that's an interesting decision. like I get why they want someone that can stay on for the long term age wise, so I get it from that perspective.
Oh,
And
right
I
on.
get like that they want to, it's going to be interesting because I don't know how they want to, like, I don't know if it's a matter of like they want to do a dive into Clark's powers as a Kryptonian or his heritage in like in terms of like learning about it as an adult. So I don't know if that's where they're going with it in terms of like description we have right now.
Right on.
Um, and if it were me, I would have honestly liked to have an older Superman if they're gonna skip everything and just kind of jump into, you know who Superman is, at least the basics. Here you go. I wouldn't have mind if they would have done an older Clark and he's like already settled down with Lois and they have John already and he's just like raising a younger super. I would have honestly liked to see that more than just kind of Superman completely year one.
Right on.
But
Um,
again, I feel like that's just me kind of referencing like Cavill and everything and where they left that character off. So, and I think that would have been a cool direction, but that's not what we're getting. So,
yeah.
and I have read Superman for All Seasons, which they're basing the movie off kind of, and like it's a good book. It's got good like cute slice of life stuff and interesting ideas. So, if they're taken from that, we could see a interesting, nice little Superman movie with like nothing too controversial or anything,
Right on.
unless they're going with the American way, which like they have dropped that from the character, so who knows?
Well, I thought he had said he had kept that American way line. I did well, I personally I think well, first off, I like Superman. I love Superman.
Oh, I do
I
too.
I, I think he's a great character. I do like that he said this is not an origin story and that they would focus on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage along with his upbringing.
I am happy about that too. Like we could skip all that. Here's Superman, insert random story here, which like I mean like the last time we had that was with Cavill, and I feel like even though it's 2020 something already, people are kind of already like we've seen it, so let's just move on to something different already.
Right on, yeah. And then I also really liked how he said that uh his that Superman's kindness in a world that he thinks of kindness as like old fashioned, and I think that Superman's kindness really fits in with that character, and I think that's what makes him so beloved. I think that he's got these really like great values as a person. He's just like, be a good person to people kind of thing, and I think that that's something that's lost these days. So I think that'll be nice to see that on film with a character.
That's so
Um,
interesting because I feel like that hasn't really been lost since we have Superman and Lois the TV show, and
yes,
I haven't read a comic in a good hot minute, but at least from what I've seen from previews and things like that, it seems like Clark still has that as in his personality still, in terms of
r-
like new comics being written today.
gotcha. I
So
I
I feel like we
wouldn't.
haven't. So I feel like we haven't really fully lost that, especially like more recently, especially since again Superman and Lois is on TV right now. So
I do like Superman and Lois. That show is actually quite excellent. Real quick side note, they did say that they were going to keep that around for a couple more seasons, so I'm happy about that. I think the comic books, though, I think they really do suck these days. I haven't picked up a Superman comic book in like a year or so. I don't know. Yeah, I think that, but I do think that this movie, I do like what he's saying about this movie. So we'll see. And he's apparently writing it, the whole thing. So, and again, I like James Gunn's writing. So I think that this will be definitely good. There's no director attached at the moment. So we'll have to see if James Gunn just picks this up himself and just is like, I'm going to direct it myself. Um,
as I said earlier, I'm kind of confused with the description because like is it about his heritage in terms of powers and learning about it, or is it actually about the actual history of Krypton. So they were pretty vague on that. So I'm kind of confused on where they want to go. So I can't, because they're so vague, I can't really give like a good proper answer to that one.
Right on. Okay, now let's head over to some TV that we got going on with this, and we're going to talk about Lanterns, which is a Green Lantern show. I don't know if you're a huge Green Lantern fan.
I do enjoy some Green Lanterns, so yeah.
Yes, and this will be both Hal Jordan and John Stewart, which I think is an excellent choice. I personally, John Stewart is the Green Lantern I grew up with in terms of
That's mine too.
yeah, in terms of
I got into Hal like much later.
exactly. I think that for I don't know if you watched the Green Lantern show, like it was like the 3D animated one or whatnot.
I still haven't gotten to that show yet.
Oh, well, it was fantastic. So I think that that really helped out in terms of like Hal Jordan being introduced to, well, not necessarily introduced. I
That's so funny because like for me, like it was like the Ryan Reynolds film, and during that time, the straight to DVD animated movies, which were pretty great. Like I think Emerald Knights, I think was one of
yes.
them.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how I got introduced to Hal as a character.
Yeah. So they said that they said, and I'm reading this now. It says our version of this is True Detective. Um, and it says it's terrestrial based. It's got two of our favorite Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and John Stewart. It plays a really big role in the main story that we're telling across our film and television. This is a very important show for us, and that was Peter Safran that said that. Now, I wanted to talk about this because the wording in this is very interesting to me, but I wanted to get your take on this show in terms of how do you feel about it?
So I feel like this is going to be definitely controversial because I think when people think of Green Lantern, they think of intergalactic, let's go beat up the bad guy, and maybe some small scale political stuff depending on the story, or small scale bad guy, overarching story, and we're done. Here they're taking it into a more so of a 90s buddy cop, but not fully a comedy, like detective television show you would see on CBS. And I think that's an interesting take. At the same time, I will say this though, I think it was a missed opportunity to have it be Barry and Hal, but good idea, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go. It's an interesting concept that you wouldn't really think of, so we'll see where that goes.
Right on. I think that for me, like I said before, I think their word usage was very interesting because they said a terrestrial base, and terrestrial means an inhabitant of Earth. So I this will obviously take place on Earth, and I did look up a couple more things. So this is going to take place on Earth, which I have to say I'm not 100% okay with that. But when I was looking into what they were explaining it sounds very interesting. So the True Detective part, I was like, ding ding ding, this sounds great because I love True Detective. So from what I understand, from what I've been seeing online, is they are intergalactic space cops, and they are just they're figuring out something that's going on in their sector, aka Earth. So they're looking into something, and apparently what happens at the end by the end of this show is will affect the entire DCU, um, which I find very fascinating. I'm very but I'm excited for this show, to be honest with you. The Green Lanterns, there's a comic book called the Darkest Night. It was written by Jeff Johns. It's very, very good. And it expanded over all the other comic books. It was very, very good. I suggest anybody, if you get a chance to go read it, I suggest doing it. But I'm excited for this show. What about you? Are you excited for this show?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see where they take this idea instead of what they would normally do when you think of Green Lantern.
Right on. All right. So now I want to talk. We're going to talk about the first one, which I think is a misstep, and that is the Authority. Now,
Okay, so that's interesting because I think I might have the same take you have, but I'm gonna let you go first.
okay. The reason so the authority, I looked into the authority because before this I had no idea who the authority was. But the authority is an acquisition by DC. They got it from another comic book publisher or whatnot. And they're basically the Justice League, but they're like a mock version of the Justice League. And the only real two basically famous characters are Midnighter and Apollo. And they're basically their version of Batman and Superman. And they are gay. They are lovers and everything. And at one point in time, they do adopt a daughter, which I think that's interesting. But my whole thing is with this is why do you have to do the authority to get if you want to do a gay couple, I'm fine with that. I'm down with that. But what's up with the authority? I don't know anybody that knows these characters, and it just for me personally, it was just a shot out of left field. I was like, I don't know where this is coming from. So I don't know. I am gonna have to see some stuff on this before I even kind of get excited for it. How did you feel about it?
Okay, so when I heard what the characters were, because I only knew Midnight and Apollo, like you just referenced, when I heard it, it's pretty much like a kind of an anti-hero Justice League, pretty
Right.
much.
Yeah.
And when I heard that aspect, I was like, ooh, do we really want to go there? Because, when you hear a lot of hot takes about Zack Snyder and how he handled the characters, do y'all really want to do that after you're doing this like pretty cheery, easygoing Superman movie? Do y'all really want to go there?
Right.
So that's where I'm like, critically and casually, is that a smart move? At the same time, I have to question whether or not are they really going to commit to Midnight and Apollo being either boyfriend or married? Are they really going to commit to that? And I'm also at the same time, I'm also kind of left with going, are they also going to pull an Eternals with those
Oh, right
two
on.
characters at the same time as well? So that's where it's kind of like there's a lot of iffy situations where like is this a risk you want to really move right now?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, by the way, that you make about are they going to pull with the Eternals? Because that was just some nonsense right there. Yeah, but again, I just want to say this could be a hit. You never know. I
Oh,
mean,
totally.
it
Like
could,
I hope it's a hit.
yeah, it could be like The Boys, just a movie. I don't know, but we'll see. Listen. I'm open to it. I'm just saying it could be a misstep, in my
On
opinion.
pen and paper right now, it
Yes.
sounds iffy.
Yes. All right. So the next one, I also think this is a misstep, is Paradise Lost, which is basically okay. So, and I want to just say real quick, you know how before all this, they had all these projects and then they all fell through. And one of the projects was the Amazons. It was a show about, Wonder Woman and Paradise Island and everything. But I'm all like, that's what this sounds like. They just took that show and just renamed it because I'm all like, what's going on here? But this is their Game of Thrones ish story about Themyscira and the Amazons. And I think that they said Diana, this would be before her
She was
being
born.
born. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm not interested in a Wonder Woman show without Wonder Woman. I don't like the other Amazons. I mean, that's great, but I don't care. I literally don't care. I want to see Wonder Woman with her ching ching. And if she's not in this show like at all, I'm not interested. Like I'm just like I don't care like at all. I really don't.
I'm 50-50 because like you brought up a good point because I feel like the thing that they don't want to run into is like having a slice of life Wonder Woman show where she learns lessons every episode or so to be a
Right.
good hero. I don't think they want to run into that situation. And at the same time, whoever's going to write for a Wonder Woman movie, whenever that's going to happen again, I don't think that they want to step over the toes of accidentally having the same moral lesson at the end of the day. So I think they did that to avoid that. At the same time, you never know. They could introduce a cool character, and I'm like, hey, yo, I actually like this character. Okay, I'm interested to see where this goes. But at the same time, there's part of me just like that's just like I could take it or leave it, really.
Yeah, I would be. this is the thing. I just don't think that it's going to work without Diana in there. I think that if you want to have her, like, I would see this show as kind of like like they said Game of Thrones, but I would say House of the Dragon, where they had time jumps, in the first season, because I think that when it comes to the DCU, you have to set up your Trinity. You have to set up Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And this show doesn't sound like it's setting up Wonder Woman. It's just setting up the island that she's born on. And I go, that's great, but you're not going to introduce Wonder Woman at all? Like, that's ridiculous. I think it's a misstep. I mean, and I don't think I'm going to be proven wrong. I think it's just going to be a misstep. But if I am, I'll admit to it, but I don't think I will be.
For me,
Um,
again, as I was saying, it's really one of those things where if you got an interesting character and group of characters, then they can easily prove me wrong. But like, if not, again, it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, maybe having Diana would be a bit better, but I see why you wouldn't want to do that.
Gotcha. All right, I brought up Batman, so let's talk about the next project, and that's The Brave and the Bold, which is a film, and that is going to be with Batman and Robin. But they're going with Damian Wayne, Batman's son, and they're going to be focusing on the Grant Morrison run on the comic book.
The era where Damien's just calling women whatever and just like actually killing people.
Yes, he's quite fun. I wanted to ask you first before how you feel about this movie right off the bat, and how do you feel about them introducing Damian Wayne before any of the other Robins, or at least having him be the main Robin before introducing any of the other Robins?
Well, first and foremost, like we don't even know who's playing Batman yet, so you got that situation at hand. And then like with Damien existing, maybe the other Bat family exist, maybe they'll show up, but I feel like that might be a little bit too much for this movie. So yeah, but like I'll say this, I get why they chose Damien because like in terms of like media right now, they're focusing a lot on him as a character. So I get why like Gunn is hyping up go read the books before you watch the movie. So he's clearly wanting that comic brand synergy. So synergy wise, I get it. If it was me, I don't think I would have jumped that Damien gun quite yet, but it is what it is. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yes, I have to say I do enjoy Grant Morrison's run on the Batman. Um, First thing, I think it's a misstep to do Damian, even though I do enjoy Damian Wayne is my second favorite Robin. Dick Grayson is my first favorite. And I really would have liked to have seen Dick Grayson be Robin
But I
first.
will I will bring this up because a lot of fans have brought this up. There's a possibility that the Batman 2 or 3, there's a possibility they might have gotten Dick Grayson already. So
I
to
was
avoid
gonna
that, they're probably doing Damien.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a part of the run was that uh a part of Damien's training was that Dick Grayson pretended to be Batman for a little bit. So I was like, well, is that what they're gonna do for this movie? Like at the end, it's a big reveal that it's actually Dick Grayson that's Batman, not Bruce Wayne.
Nah, man, that'd be crazy. I don't know how I feel about that one,
Right.
but
And then they just have Batman show up in another, later on down the line, another movie. I personally would not like that. I want Bruce Wayne as my Batman, but and plus I think it'll be interesting because if they're going with a younger Superman, are you also going to go with the younger Batman? And if you're going with a younger Batman, how does he
that
have
would be so
a
weird. That would be so weird because it's like Damien doesn't show up till Bruce is like in his 40s and he's already taken care of a group of kids already, so he's already prepared for that.
Yeah, and he's got like a little kid. So if you got to have cast an older actor. You can't cast a younger actor because I'm like if Robert Pattinson was his dad, I'd be like, what? His dad looks like he's like 25 and he's got a 10-year-old. What's going on here? This is weird. So I don't know how they're gonna do this. But at the same time, I love Batman, so I'm definitely going to see this movie. I'm all in. But
Oh yeah,
I
also since I've noticed some fan casting, please don't have Damien be played by a white kid. Like just like let's not do
Oh
that.
yeah, I have seen people say that. I agree. Like he's half Middle Eastern, so I do think that casting him appropriately would be the best choice. I think that you'll upset your fan base if you don't. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now let's move over to Booster Gold, which is going to be a TV show and it's going to be live action and everything. And now they said I wanted to see. Okay, so they're going to. This is their take on imposter syndrome as a superhero. But I have to just be honest. The Booster Gold comic books. Now I haven't read an overwhelming a bunch of them. The ones that I did read were Booster Gold and with Blue Beetle, but Ted Cord as Blue Beetle. I have two things. One, how much do you know about this character? Do you think Blue Beetle from the Blue Beetle movie that's coming out will be in this show with Blue Beetle? I mean with Booster Gold. Um and then how do you feel about this imposter syndrome as a superhero as he's described by James Gunn?
Okay, so what they're doing is they're going back to complete basics with Booster Gold of him being a joke character.
Right.
And I'd
Which I
say
like
because
that. I like that.
for me, because I never picked up a comic, but I've watched the episode with him in Justice League Unlimited, and I've watched a few episodes with him in Justice League Action. And I do like that characterization of the character, and especially with Shazam being a success, it makes sense why they would choose Booster Gold as, an easy, fun little TV show. At the same time, I'm curious as to when they're gonna send Booster Gold into the past,
Mhm.
because the show could take place in a time where Ted Cord is still alive,
Oh, that's a good point.
but has to deal with, maybe later on, like he has to deal with Jaime being in the position of having that mantle and not his old bestie and or boyfriend Ted Cord. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with it.
Right on. I personally I like Booster Gold. The comic books that I read, I thought he was very comedic. I thought it was fun. So I think that this show, I think it's a hit, in terms of what they're going for. I don't really know about the imposter syndrome because, that is his thing. He like pretends to be a superhero when really it's just future tech. But he is a superhero because he actually does like save people and stuff. So I'm
It
like
well, it
if
turns well, it turns into that a bit later, into like the story arc for him. So I
right.
get why they used it as a description in terms of like where you want to start the character off at the basics.
Right on. But yeah, no, I will definitely be watching the show. I think it's going to be a hit already. Okay, so now we're getting down to the last two, buddy. All right, so now Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Now this is going to be a film, and it's based off of the comic book by Tom King. And I did not read this. It's I believe it's only 6 or 8 issues. I can't remember. I did not read this. I did order it off Amazon, which is now sold out. The last time I checked, it was sold out, which I was like, that's insane.
Oh, I do. Since you just brought that up, I haven't read it either, but I will say I do like that they are promoting people to read comics before the movie, because, like, look at it now. Like, the comics completely sold out. Like, Marvel's not even taking advantage of like their source material. Like, I'm glad that DC is actually taking inspiration from their source material and actually like we haven't seen anything on screen yet, but I gotta give them credit for getting actual comic writers to help on a few of these movies and actually sorting their sources, instead of much later on where like you get the Blu-ray of Supergirl and they're like, oh yeah, this is what we based it on, and you found out like when you bought the DVD and not like earlier on when it was in production and things like that. So I think they're doing like a smart decision to like really make sure people get into the character, and then if they like that comic, maybe read more. I think that's a smart business decision they made.
Right on. I agree. I think I listen, as a comic book fan, I always think it's a good idea to read comic books. And I've been doing this since they started doing these films. Like I said before, I bought Shazam, I bought Blue Beetle comic books, and I bought Black Adam before Black Adam came out. Just
Yeah,
because like
I forgot to mention that, but yeah, I did the same thing for Shazam before it came out. I was able to find like a whole thing of the original first era run of the comics.
Oh, I didn't get that. I bought the one that Jeff Johns had written. I wish I would have found what you had found. That's because that sounds cool. But from what I understand from this storyline, like I said before, it's written by Tom King, and I did read James Gunn say that they're not necessarily adapting from the comic book. It's just they're kind of interpreting. I don't remember his exact words. Please don't quote me on this, people. I personally don't care for Tom King's writing overall. I like he does write like I said, I haven't read this, so it could be amazing. From what I've been told by people, it's pretty good. Um, I'm going to read it, and I'll tell you what I think when I'm done. But I'm just saying, I personally like for the most part, I don't really. But at the same time, I feel like when he keeps his stories like contained to a small number of issues, I do feel like he does better with that. So maybe this will be really really good. Because he also wrote Mr. Miracle, and that was pretty good. Okay. Do you think this movie is a hit, or well, you know what? I've seen a lot of people online saying that it's too early to introduce Supergirl. Do you think this is too early to introduce Supergirl?
I don't think so. The reason why I say that is like we don't know who's playing her, but she could be played by the Supergirl actress for the Flash, but who
Mm.
knows on that one. But the Superman, we got a Superman movie already, so given the description, that would make an interesting Superman 2 movie of Superman and Kara meeting up. And they say that this Kara is like a more jaded and not kind of fully, like, I guess, adjusted to
Oh yeah, and she's just been
people, I
killing.
guess. So
Yeah.
I think, that there could be a possibility of like Clark teaching her things, and she turns into, you know, a little bit more of the Kara we know a little bit,
Right
depending on
on.
who it is, because people definitely write Kara definitely different from each person's interpretation.
Right on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Sasha Calais plays Supergirl.
If
All
she
right.
is for this.
But if she is, yes, she'll definitely be playing in the Flash, and we'll see how she does there. I think she looks pretty cool. But anyways, okay. So now I want to talk about the last film on this little slate, and that is Swamp Thing. Um, how do you feel about this? Do you like Swamp Thing? Are you a fan? What's going on? What are your thoughts?
I haven't touched a comic nor the TV show that existed, but a horror DC movie sounds pretty fun.
Right on. I have to just say, I first off, I love Swamp Thing. The TV show that got canceled way too soon was fantastic in my opinion. I felt like that show could have been way gotten way better. Like it was already good, and I'm all like, "Ooh, we're getting so good here," and then they just cancel it, and I was like, "That was a bad choice. That was a bad choice." I also love Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing. I always enjoy Alan Moore. I think he's such a good writer. I think he's got such interesting takes and everything. And I thought that his take on Swamp Thing is really great. I also think that when it comes to Swamp Thing, this is a perfect way to introduce Poison Ivy to the DC universe. And the reason is because
I've heard a lot of people say that because they're connected to the green.
yeah, the green, exactly, the green. And I'm just like, this is a great way to introduce Poison Ivy. You bring her in. In fact, there was a movie, I can't remember the name of it, but she was working with Oh, what is his name? It doesn't even matter. Anyways, but I think that Poison Ivy, this is a great way to introduce her. And then, later on when you bring in Harley Quinn and then you have those two meet and then, we get a, mwah, mwah, and all that stuff. I think that that would be a great idea. But back to Swamp Thing, I'm excited for this movie just because I love the character. I think it's a really good character. I think that a lot of people really don't know how to appreciate Swamp Thing and just love him for the character that he is. And I would suggest going to read the Alan Moore run on that. I think it's really, really good. So overall, what is the project out of all of this that you are most excited about?
It's interesting because I don't really know.
Right on. Yeah,
I
there's no.
think really I'm just kind of left in a position where we're getting into that. The Flash is far away. It's not till the summer. But even though Shazam is going to plant little seeds along the way, we're getting into that Days of Futures Past era of the DCEU, with retcons and different ideas and actors and things like that. So I think really the best way I could describe myself right now is just interest interestly cautiously optimistic right now.
Right on. Yeah, no, that's a great place to be. Like, you're excited, but or you're not excited, but your mind could be changed. For me personally, the I would have to say the thing I'm most excited about is lanterns. Even though I don't really know how I feel about them just doing it on Earth, the True Detective thing really interests me because I don't know if you watch that show. But I personally really like that show, and I think that this is an interesting way to go about doing the Green Lanterns. I think it's a really interesting way, especially if they do it right and they got their powers and stuff. I think it'll be pretty interesting. Are there any concerns?
Yeah, because I brought it up earlier. Um, the brand synergy thing. Um, like as I talked about earlier, like the Tomorrowverse, like is that gonna go away now because they want to make animated projects? And like at the same time, like they brought up like video games and things like that. And I'm curious as to whether or not they're putting their eggs into one basket. Because I can say this, Aquaman, when that character, in terms of movie wise, when all of that happened, they started to give Jason like characteristics to comic Aquaman. It's a good thing they didn't reboot or anything because that would have looked pretty foolish on their part. So it's one of those things where are they funny pun coming up here? Are they really jumping the gun?
Right on.
Because
I
what happens if all of it falls apart?
I agree. I think that you have to have like that kind of synergy, but yeah, I think you're right. I think that you're right. For me personally though, what I have to say that really concerns me the most out of all of this is the writing staff of these projects. There's a couple of names that really scream out to me, like James Gunn. I like James Gunn's writing, but the rest are Drew Goddard,
Oh,
Jeremy Slatter.
I didn't bring this up. I think I did, but I kind of touched upon it a little bit. But and I will say this, I do blame this more so on the Marvel Cinematic Universe than anything else, and not the creators. But they've really put their movies into a box, really. Like as we recently heard, like Ant-Man got a few changes here and there to be more MCU'd up. And like again, we don't know what that movie looks like, but from what I've heard, it's it seems like there's a little bit of tonal whiplash because of what the movie was going for versus we got to keep it in the MCU box. And because James was part of that MCU box, but on top of that, other projects he's worked on, I can't say he's a one trick pony, but when you know the man's writing, you're like, ooh, are we sure we want him on Superman?
I hear you. Um, okay, right on. Okay.
But go on with the directors you were going to talk about
Oh,
before
I was just
do my thing.
I forgot. Okay, so the only red flag for me really is just two writers, Christina Hodson and Tom King. I think Tom King, he's a very hit or miss kind of person, but I think Christina Hodson is a terrible writer. I think she's complete as far as her writing goes, it's complete trash. She has written nothing that I like, and I don't understand.
Has she done?
Well,
Because I don't know.
she did do Bumblebee. That was her first movie
Okay,
was that Shut In movie. I don't know if you saw that movie. It
I
had
haven't. I haven't seen both,
it
so
it
I
had
can't speak.
it had Naomi Watts in it. And then she wrote this movie called Unforgettable, with Rosario Dawson and Katherine Heigl, and that movie is just like not good either. It's terrible. And then her big movie was well, her big start, her like big movie that got her all started was Bumblebee. Now Bumblebee was okay, but not really. It was just okay, but it wasn't that great. And then she did Birds of Prey, and I have to tell you right now, I did
And I
not
haven't
care.
seen that. I haven't seen that
Yeah,
either.
I didn't
So
care for Birds of Prey. And then she also wrote Batgirl. And I have to go, Batgirl got canceled because they said it was bad. And I'm all like, it doesn't surprise me. I think Christina Hodson is just a terrible writer. So, and then she also wrote The Flash, but The Flash has been from what I've been reading online is they've got a lot of like people that had like she wrote the original draft and then people came in and just like doctored up her script to make it not so bad. Because I guess from what I was reading is that the original script was not the best, so they needed to bring people in to kind of touch up scenes, and then they bring somebody else in to try to, but they apparently they didn't change it so much that they didn't take her name off of it. um but yeah, I don't know, I really, she worries me so much because I do not think she's a good writer. um Okay, do you want to wrap this sucker up? Is there anything else you want to say about this the DC Studios announcement and the DCU going forward with Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters?
I just realized we forgot to mention that they're still doing the Black Superman movie for Elseworlds. But yeah, that's still happening. So that's gonna be interesting. Um, I guess really we're just kind of just in an interesting state of, well, we're not fully rebooting, so you know whatever happens happens. Just hopefully we all enjoy it at the end of the day, because that's really all we want, is just good comic book movies and TV shows that we can all enjoy and not have to worry about too many too many controversies with WB and everything. So
Right on. All right, you guys. Well, tell us, what do you guys think about all of these projects and everything? Do you think they all sound great? Which one are you most excited for? Which one are you least excited for? Do you think, what did you think about that announcement? Did you like the presentation, or did you think it was a little eh? But tell us what you guys think. You can leave your comments in the section down below. Please hit the like button and share and all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next time on Fandom is Magic. Bye.